Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the Coffee and Takes podcast. Today, I have a very special guest here with me, the first lady on the podcast, actually, Rupa. Thank you for coming down. I came across you a few years ago. I was in network marketing, and so were you at the time, and you still are. We'll get into that as well shortly. I came across you and your husband, Vinay. Vinay's actually been on the podcast before. If you haven't seen the episode, check it out. I think it was episode number 11, I believe. But thank you so much for coming down today, Rupa. I want to get into your story and exactly what you're doing right now. And of course, we'll share a lot of value to our audience as well. But first of all, if you can just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, first of all, for inviting me down here. Like, it's an absolute privilege. Considering I've known you for a few years, you know the type of person you are. Like, I think it's amazing what you're doing. So my name is Rupa Palmer, as Ali said, and I have been in network marketing for a decade now. What I'm doing currently, it's been the last 7 years. And, you know, a family woman, a mother of 2 young children. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. Live in a household of, 6 people. It sometimes fluctuates from 6 to 8 to 10 and back to 6. So it's all a little bit crazy. But yeah, absolutely loving and enjoying what I'm doing.
That's amazing. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about when you were a young girl and when you were growing up. What kind of childhood did you have? Because I like to start from there to establish how a person thinks. But where did you grow up, and how has that shaped you into the person that you are today?
I love that question, because it all stems from the beginning, where you are today and what you do in life. I think for me, the way I see it, like I come from a very middle-class family. Parents have always been working in a job. My dad for the Royal Mail, my mum for the post office. So there was no really inspiration around my life, around business. So I always felt my path, okay, I'm going to go work in a job. I'm going to be successful in the corporate ladder and take it from there. But for me, education was very difficult, I would say, academically. I don't know why. Maybe it was my lack of attention that I was giving. My concentration just was never there. And so I went through high school, never enjoyed going to school, first of all, because there was a lot of bullying around. I would say from the age of 13, 14, and that is sort of prime teenage years as you kind of develop as a person. I was bullied a lot in high school by people I didn't even know most of the time. So I used to skip school a lot, go in, register, bunk school. And so I did, in hindsight, fail all my GCSEs, which didn't make my parents very proud. Nevertheless, I did put myself through college thereafter. And again, I went to like 4 different colleges, got kicked out of one college for getting into a fight. Like, anyone who knows me now, they'd be like, no way, that's not the Rupa we know. But my growing up years has been really crazy, roller coaster. After college, went into uni, spent 5 years in uni. I did graduate at the end of it, but I was always the person that I felt was attracting trouble to me. And, I did become a bit rebellious in my years because my family growing up, they're very, very strict, very religious, very high up in their community. And so the reputation is everything. And I think for that reason, a lot of the times when they said, you have to do this, this and that, I kind of just almost did the opposite. And I wanted to find my own path and just wanted to take my own journey. But I was definitely the black sheep of my family, I would say, growing up.
And would you say that led you into a life of entrepreneurship? Because it's an unconventional route. It's not the typical route that most people follow.
Yeah.
It's a high risk, high reward if you pull it off, avenue to go down. But it's also an avenue that not everybody is cut out for, which I think is a conversation that isn't had enough.
Yeah.
But did you feel that is something that led you into entrepreneurship, the fact that you were out of the ordinary, you weren't sort of the blend-in type?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I remember even in my early teens, I used to always dream about, and TV is a massive influence, so I used to watch these like Desperate Housewives and Beverly Hills and all these kind of, shows that just showed glam and luxury. And I said, I want this. And I used to discuss things with my friends, and they were like, oh, you're such a dreamer. That's not reality, and that will never happen. But I always felt deep down inside, like that's really what I wanted for myself. Although my parents always try to say, just get the education, get married, and just work in a job. Like, we're doing fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there was always something else that was pulling me away from that and wanting to venture into the unknown, I guess.
For you, was it more specifically the freedom element, or was it being able to buy whatever you desired? Obviously, at that age, I guess what you want is different to what you want later on in life.
Exactly.
But what was it for you back then?
I think in the beginning, it was definitely being able to buy whatever I desired, because I started work as soon as I got my NI number, like 16, 17. Like, I was ready to go into a job. I wanted to earn my own money.
What was your first job?
My first job was in shoes. I think Dulce's. If you probably don't. They're like a shoe shop. I've been from shoe shop to retail in clothes. Millie's Cookies. I was so upset when they closed down.
Oh yeah, Millie's Cookies.
Best cookies and muffins ever. So I've been in retail like for a long time. The likes of Tempo, Comet, the household appliances. Like I've literally counted more than 20 jobs I've had. I lost count after that. So, number one, I was hungry to work or earn money. But number two, I was never satisfied working for somebody else, because I just kept bouncing around. And I always wanted something different. So I think initially it was the money element. It was the freedom, being able to do what I wanted to do without asking permission. But I think later on, it was the aspect of me kind of accepting that I had been quite a troublesome teen, and being known as the black sheep, not even in my family, but also within the community, having that bit of a name. And then it became more that, I want to prove to people and to myself that I'm not this person that you've painted a picture of. I am something greater, and I can do something so much bigger. So I think that really became my bigger reason later on.
That's amazing to hear. And in terms of your personality as well, would you say that you've always been an extroverted personality type? Or
I think growing up, I was quite an introvert, because I had a very small circle. When I say small circle, I'm one or two friends, literally. But I think definitely getting out of my comfort zone, coming out of my shell, I started going gym at the age of 15, just so that I can learn how to become stronger, not only physically, but mentally. Hanging around with different types of people grew my confidence. And I think, slowly I turned into an extrovert.
That's interesting, because a lot of people hold on to their personality type that they've had since they were a young child. Some people say I'm naturally introverted. And in fact, if you look at some of the most successful people today, they have introverted personalities, a lot of them. They're not really your typical social butterflies who go out there and rub shoulders with anyone. They tend to stay isolated in their office by themselves. I think Elon Musk considers himself an introvert. He's a bit socially awkward. I'm always fascinated as to how someone's personality shapes who they are. I mean, entrepreneurs typically are very extroverted people. Because we need to go out there and introduce ourselves. Exactly. A lot of us work in sales.
That's right.
Early on to build our ability to build connections. Have you ever worked in sales? I mean, you mentioned, of course, you worked in retail, face to face. Yeah,
retail, and also in sales. I was a sales and events manager for about 8 years, a few years after graduating. For one of the biggest nightlife operators in London. So I used to predominantly look after a lot of the clients in Liverpool Street, Bank area, Moorgate, the big banks, the accountants, the law firms, just looking after their hospitality needs, really. So it did, trigger me to having to go out and having to meet people and having to be this social butterfly as well, in order for me to sustain my job and to work up the ladder even more. So it developed
and that job.
Me.
So what did you study at university?
Tourism and marketing management. I tried to choose the easiest subjects that I could think of, but degree is a degree, right?
Oh, so that was your mentality back then. I just want to choose something, get it done, make my parents happy.
That's it. That was my goal. That's it.
And then, so when you worked in the events management job, you must have met some interesting people. in
I
that line of
did.
work?
I did. And it just made me think, like, people were like calling me, okay, Rupa, I've got 30,000 to spend on a Christmas party. I've got a budget of 50,000 for a team of 20 people. And I used to think, like, damn, that's a lot of money. And these corporate organizations, these firms, like, they're all very well dressed and they're well spoken. And I love being in that environment of being around the successful people, just rubbing shoulders with them and listening into their conversations whilst I'm, being hospitable as well. So yeah, it was amazing.
Did that light a spark in you when it came to making money? Because someone spending 30,000 on an event,
Yeah.
that must have made you think, wow, there's a lot of money out there.
Exactly. Definitely.
Because that's something that impacted me early on in my entrepreneurial career, is the fact that there are people out there that will very easily spend £10,000 on something that they need to get done.
Yeah.
And that the ability just to put the money down quickly,
It's amazing.
it's just eye-opening.
Yeah.
It makes you think there's so much money out there, because there's a lot of people today that are still living a life of scarcity. And they watch the news and they think, oh God, the taxes are so high, there's not enough money going around. And a part of that is to do with the media companies fear-mongering, right?
Yeah.
They spread these negative articles and these news to instill this sense of hopelessness in people.
Exactly. I mean, I don't remember the last time I watched the news. Like, I physically can't do it. With what I'm doing, I do need to be aware of news that's happening. And so I just have an app on my phone, on the laptop, and I'm like, okay, where is there major news going on in which country? Like, high impact news, low impact news, that's all I need to know for what I do. Other than that, I remember traveling into work when I used to work in central London. Everyone would like queue up to pick up the metro. And I stopped doing it after a while, because I realized actually how much is disrupting my own brain and my ability to think on a positive level when all you're reading is negativity, and that kind of feeds people. So I took myself away from that as well.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, my first job was paper round when I was 15. And every morning when I'd leave the house at like 4 a.m. to do my run and deliver, I think it was about 250 newspapers, I'd just see the same articles every day. Negativity. This is going wrong. Britain is crashing. The economy's messed up. And I thought, wow, people are really buying this. They're actually spending money to be negative, basically, to feel negative every day. And actually that has a lot to, I mean, that links to what happened a few years ago with COVID, I think, on the news, when there was so much fear mongering and so many people made themselves, I feel like it makes you physically sick consuming so much negativity.
Absolutely.
It alters your chemistry on the inside.
It does. Completely.
And I feel like it zaps you of any optimism and desire to do well. Because if you think that the world is crashing and that everything is going upside down, does that really make you want to go out there and take action and change the world? It kind of takes away your desire, don't you think?
100%. And I think, especially when I came across The Secret, like, I had never known about the law of attraction until 10 years ago when I came into this industry. And when I really understood it, and I thought, okay, thoughts become things. Everything happens twice, first in the mind and then in reality. And this really stuck to me. And I thought, why do I want to have anything negative in my mind? Because that will become my reality. And so I started to become so conscious about what I was thinking, who I was with, what I was listening to. And you just think all this stuff is going on in the world. You see all this negative stuff on media, you see all the poverty in different countries, but then there are also those people who are living a life that you could never even dream of. Like, it's that 1% of the world. They're doing something very different to the rest of the population. And so what is that thing? It's just completely separating themselves and their thought processes from what we're kind of open to, but what we're exposed to in society, I guess.
And speaking of those people, when did you begin rubbing shoulders with these people? And what was the biggest eye-opener for you after you started spending time with people like that, who were very, very successful?
The funny thing is, like, I always, and it might be from my past or something I've heard, but I've always felt like the rich are categorized as a certain type of people. very egotistical. It's kind of got the head in the clouds, and they think very much of themselves and all this kind of attitude. And that's maybe just what society kind of, I don't know, puts an image into your mind or things that you've seen. But I actually realized when I met people in my industry who were these 6, 7, 8-figure earners, and you could literally talk to them like a normal person. You could sit with them, you can call them on the other side of the phone, you can ask them about anything, and they are extremely humble. But I also think it depends on what industry, because there is a lot of competition, in various industries around the world. So you will get those people who are like, got the hunter mentality, they're very much about, this is my business, I don't really care, I want to get to the top. But from what we do, I guess it's just a different nature of business where no one wants to be at the top, but they want to help other people to reach, those levels.
Was there anything that took you by surprise after you started having those conversations? So you mentioned that their desire to help people that are not doing as well. Was that something that surprised you? Because as you mentioned, people have this stereotype of rich people looking down at others and seeing them as less than.
Yeah.
Was that something that made you think, oh, they're rich, but they're, as Jim Rohn says, rich but easy to talk to?
Oh, 100%. Especially being in the corporate world for so long. It's a dog-eat-dog world, like we can all have best friends in our industries, in our companies. But if there's a promotion going on, you're going to secretly hope that that person fails and that you win. So there is always an element of selfishness, with the way we've been raised and how we've been brought up. You want to be the best. So it was really shocking to know that actually someone genuinely does want you to make your dreams come true. Someone does really want to help you to reach the top levels, even if it means going above them. And I think it's also the realization that people understand giving. They understand the concept of how, impact is more important than income, because the income will come, the money will come, that financial result will come. But what are you doing to help other people? What are you doing to make a difference? And I love that whole concept,
I fully agree. I think I had that revelation as well in my entrepreneurial journey. When I met people that were doing really well, I realized, wow, they're making a lot of money, but they have this attitude of servitude, right?
Yeah.
They're looking to serve as many people as possible.
Exactly.
And they're not, because a lot of entrepreneurs now get into entrepreneurship and their immediate priorities are to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But I think that they are at the very early stage of their maturity and their development,
Exactly.
because later on they'll realize that the money will only come when they develop this attitude of serving other people.
Absolutely.
Because Jim Rohn says that success is looking for a good place to stay.
Exactly.
And mentality-wise, if you're someone who leads from the front, somebody who looks to provide as much value to the audience, create the best products, if you're really obsessed with making sure you deliver the best possible experience, that's when success starts to come to you.
Exactly. 100%. And I remember Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, loved, I actually met him as well in LA for one of his courses. He blows my mind. I mean, I love listening to him. And I remember him saying that, people think that, money is everything. But, money actually is supposed to make you comfortable. It's not supposed to make you happy. Money brings you comfort. And when you're comfortable, you're creative. And when you're creative, you can serve more, the more service you render. And when you serve more, the more money you make. So it's like a circle, but you have to earn a little bit to be comfortable, but then also that has to allow you to be more creative and give more at the same time.
That's a very, very interesting philosophy right there. Because a lot of people, they just focus on the number itself, the amount of money.
Exactly.
But they don't see how they can continue to increase it. Because it's one thing getting that amount, but then can you actually sustain it?
Exactly.
And entrepreneurship is very hard. In fact, I wanted to ask you about entrepreneurship. Did it surprise you in any way? Did you realize, wow, this is actually a lot harder than a job?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, before doing this online business that we're doing, I was doing more of a traditional business. Well, not traditional, but I went into wedding management, wedding planning. So that was my own company. I was doing weddings, hosting events for people, and I'm talking anything from 500 to 1,000 people. I was a one-man band. catering, decor, venue, DJs, entertainment, like everything I was sourcing myself through contacts. And when I was working over the weekend, I kid you not, I was on my feet 18 to 20 hours a day.
Wow.
It's insane. I was there from first thing in the morning, 4, 5 o'clock before the decoration people came, until the last thing at night, last man standing at 3 a.m. after the reception. So it was extremely hard. It was very rewarding, but it was very hard. And so, the whole theory of, you don't need to work as much because you're self-employed and you can choose your own hours. That's once you've established some sort of system. That's once you've mastered your game and you've got it running to a point where it's self-sufficient. But in the beginning, it might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years of sacrifice, to be able to get that result.
Well, and was that what really spurred you on to looking at online businesses? And was it more so that you can get more of your time back? Because you felt like you were just draining it away.
100%. And I did the wedding planning prior to having a family, having children. And so I was just kind of introspecting, and I thought, well, if I'm married and I've got children, how am I going to be walking home at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning on the weekend? I'll never see my kids. I'll never have time to spend with my family because predominantly most of my events will be on the weekends. So it just wasn't ideal long term for me, although I loved it and I was so passionate about it. So my biggest thing, I had to ask myself, what is it that I want? And the number one thing for me is I want to be able to move around, live anywhere in the world, because I'm so over this weather as well. Like, it's freezing cold and it's almost April.
Yeah, absolutely. It was hailing yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
I'm born for hot weather, I know. So I said, what can I do that will allow me to live anywhere if I wanted to have that choice, but still be able to make significant amount of money that I don't have to worry about having a traditional business or being in a specific place of work or relying on certain people. What can I just do quite freely online? Trading.
And what options presented themselves before you got into what you're doing right now?
Obviously, there's properties. Properties is one of those things. But then again, I thought, right, I don't have the knowledge. But knowledge is always something that you have to go and look for. You have to go and gain for yourself. No one's going to teach you in school or in university how to become a realtor, how to go into the property market. That doesn't happen. That was one option. And then Forex trading came up as another option. Now, my biggest hurdle with that, again, it was like, oh my God, my school nightmares were coming back. Like, my worst subjects were economics, IT, finance. So graphs and charts and numbers was like, no way. Like, I was just like, it's not for me. It's never going to happen.
Yep. Yeah.
It was just a fear factor, to be honest, because I was never good at it. So I had that in my mind that I'm never going to be able to get this.
It was a subconscious limiting belief, wasn't it?
Absolutely. But then I said, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Let me try. Let me speak the language of what the banks are doing with our money and what the richest people in the world are doing with their money. And let me learn about it. Whether I'm good at it or not is irrelevant. Let me just learn from my own knowledge what it entails. And so, we did a course on that, and 7 years now we've been doing that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I like how you mentioned, you know what, I don't know anything about it, but let me learn.
That's it.
Because a lot of people want to find the hack. They want to find, I get asked this question all the time, Ali, what's the best way to make money? And that's a very loaded question. And it's not a question that you can answer the same way for everyone.
No.
It depends. It depends on your personality type, but also you may not know until you've tried 4 or 5 things.
Exactly.
So, what you mentioned there about learning, just give it a go.
Yeah.
I always say you don't need to be passionate about something from the get-go. Just be curious.
Exactly.
I think Jim Rohn mentions that the first step isn't motivation, it's information.
Exactly.
Yeah. Inform yourself.
100%.
Start learning about it. And oftentimes you'll surprise yourself.
Yeah.
It won't actually be difficult.
Exactly.
It was just new. It's reprogramming the language. It wasn't hard. It was just new.
Exactly.
And it was the same thing for me when I got into trading as well.
Yeah.
A bunch of lines. I didn't do too well in school.
Yeah.
I didn't get good grades at A-levels. In fact, I got a C and 2 Ds in my A-levels. And I remember at the time thinking, man, I'm such an idiot. What's wrong with me? I'm not going to go to university. I'm not going to have a formal qualification.
Yeah.
So when I looked into trading, I was like, is this going to be one of those situations that's going to be so taxing on the mind? And I'm not good with equations. But caught you by surprise when it came to trading? The more you learned about it, what did you like about it after you started learning?
I mean, we had actually done a course about 9 years ago, I would say about 9 years ago, prior to the platform we're on now. We paid round about £25,000 on this course, and it was a 1-year course.
Wow.
So I was thinking,
That's a huge amount of money.
that's a huge amount of money, especially after you've just got married and paid for your own wedding.
Wow.
And, and it's not money that we just had. And we thought, well, we've got nothing to do. Let's just give it a go. Like we went into our overdrafts. We took out loans. We maxed out credit cards out. We were trying to find every means possible to pay for this, myself and my husband. He's a criminal lawyer by profession. So again, completely different industry from what he was doing. But we knew this was something where you can do from anywhere in the world. As I said, it's one of our biggest reasons to start learning about it. So we did that course, and man, we were given manuals like this thick to read, wow, like an encyclopedia. The videos that we were sent to watch, they were like 9-hour-long videos. When you've just done a 10, 12-hour shift in your job and you've got to come home, you've got to do all your, cooking and cleaning, and how are you going to watch an 8-hour video after that? Like I was pulling my hair out, literally. I was really upset with the whole process because, first of all, Vinay forced me to do it. Yeah. I didn't want to do the course. Yeah. He was like, no, we've got to make up. We've got big dreams and big goals, and what else are we going to do? And I was like, oh, okay, I'll be the supportive wife and just, I'll be there with you, but it's your thing. It's not for me. But actually... And in that course that we were doing, like I remember the first 3 days, like a weekend was an introductory course. Mm-hmm. I was probably one of like 4 women out of a room of 100 men. And I thought, I'm in the wrong place. Like, this isn't for me. It's a man's industry. Like, what am I doing here? But again, I was just open to learning. I was a good student. I had my laptop and I had my calculator and I had no idea what to do with them. But I was equipped to take the job. I was ready. Yeah. And I actually cried a lot on my first day. I had my head down and tears were just coming down my eyes. And I felt like I was in high school all over again, just not understanding anything and feeling stupid and just feeling weak and out of place. And the reason why is because people were in that room and they were having their hands up. They were asking questions. They were communicating, with the coach. And I was thinking, I don't even know what to ask. That's how confused I am. Completely different world from anything I'd ever known. But then they said one thing. They said 80 to 90% of your success is the psychology, is your mindset. Only 10, 20% is the skill, which is the graphs and the charts and the analysis. And I was thinking, are you sure you haven't got that the other way around? Like, how can so much of it be psychology when you think about trading, all you think about is graphs and charts? So when I understood that, I was like, okay, maybe I'm giving myself too much of a hard time. And I could get this because I knew I had already trained and I was in the process of developing my mindset, being in network marketing, then. So now it's been 10 years I've been in the industry of network marketing. Wow. So I had some kind of exposure prior to doing that Forex course on mentality, mindset, like writing down goals, having a vision, law of attraction. So I thought, okay, I can work on this. And it's something that is possible. That's what I thought. Wow. I like how you mentioned that, what you thought it would take, it was a completely different arrangement. The focus more so on mindset than on theory. Yeah. Because we've all, since our childhood, all we've been taught is that you need to learn this and memorize that, and it's all the theory. Yeah. But we have never been taught how to utilize our minds effectively. No. And obviously you mentioned The Secret. I mean, were there any other books as well that touched on mindset that you read, or any individuals that you learned from that opened your eye to the power of the human mind? Because it's remarkably powerful. Definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was the other book that I read and came across the cash flow quadrant very early into the industry. And when I saw that and understood, and I took time to understand it, because I'm one of those people that, I'm not going to get something straight away when it's not in my comfort zone. It's not something I'm familiar with. So I'm like, okay, I want to get this because it sounds powerful, but I haven't quite digested it the way I should. So I read it again and again and again, listened to it on YouTube as well, because again, reading and hearing for me is slightly different as well, you know. And when I got that the employee and the business owner, they're still going to always be exchanging their time for money. They're always going to be working for their money. But then being the investor and, the business, as opposed to a small business owner or a self-employed, being on that other side of the quadrant is where the money's working for you, having the leverage, having that time, making money in your sleep, creating a system. I thought, how do I do that? And I was thinking about my wedding planning company at the time. And I thought, well, I'm always going to be the face of my wedding planning business. I'm never going to allow someone else to go and run these events because it's my reputation on the line. So how am I going to cross from being that small business owner to the big business owner? And for that to happen, I had to come out of my comfort zone, do something different, which was network marketing. Very unconventional, you know, a lot of skepticism around it, a lot of negativity around it. But then if I knew that people were very successful in this industry, I'm just going to see how they've done it and give it a shot. I had nothing to lose.
Exactly. This is something I preach all the time as well. I mean, give it a go.
Yeah.
You never lose anything. I think people have this twisted. They think, yeah, but I'll waste 2 years. It's like, well, no, just because you haven't been paid the amount of money that you desired,
Exactly.
it doesn't mean you've wasted 2 years. You've
Yeah.
learned a great deal.
Absolutely.
Even now, when I look back at every job I've ever had,
Yeah.
they've all taught me something. You know,
100%.
even if it's what I don't want that
Yeah.
they've taught me,
Yeah.
it's still something that it has taught me. So
There's
it's very
always a
valuable.
lesson. Always a lesson. My first 3 years in network marketing, I probably in total made about $1,000, maybe just over $1,000.
Wow.
First 3 years. And I was grinding hard. I was honestly going through it like a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
But it was tough. And people kept telling me, just quit, just stop. You got a great job in corporate events. You got a great business as a wedding planner. Like, what are you doing? What is this online thing? What are you trying to sell to people? You know, as I said, there was just something that really magnetized me to it.
How did you drown out the noise? How did you stay at it despite all the criticism?
I think being very, very clear on my end goal. Being very clear on my end goal. And my biggest reason when I started the industry, although initially, you know, when I was told to write down my goals, it was like, right, here's a paper, here's 1 to 20. Rupa, I want you to write down 20 things that you really want for yourself. Write down 20 goals. I kid you not, Ali, I stopped at number 5. I was struck. I was like, what else do I want? Nice house, nice car, designer bag, nice holiday, and I don't know, something else. And I thought to myself, like, why is my mind, why have I got such a blockage? Like, I really can't think of anything else I want. And, you know, slowly, like, talking to the right people, listening to the right things, my mind started expanding. Going to a convention, company convention with 10 to 15,000 people in an arena, you know, like crazy, ambitious dreamers, and listening to people's stories, that's really what triggered me in this industry. And that made me think, oh my God, I have got a bigger why, I have got a bigger reason. And that reason initially was always my mum. Like, I wanted to retire her. That was my biggest goal. You know, she was working like 6 days a week, waking up at 3:30 in the morning every day, looking after my grandparents, who she's lived with all her life as well. And she was always smiling. She was always happy. But I said, you know what? I put you through a lot in your life. You know, I put you through hell. And I don't want you to live like that. I want you to live like a queen. I want you to travel. I want you to enjoy the things you're doing. And so 7 years into the industry, you know, I was able then to offer her a little bit more than if I had just not bothered and just stuck to the job that I was doing. So definitely became very strong over time. And, you know, another thing that I did to also help my psychology, not to say this with any ego, but I'm a girl that was never used to the word no. I was never used to rejection. Every interview I went to, I got the job. You know, anyone who I wanted to date, I got to date. So in this industry, when you're told no, it's a scam, what are you doing? Like, you know, and you're just like, oh my God, like I'm hurt. Like, I'm
you
not
internalize it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not, you take it personally, you know? And so what I did is I actually, and I still got this to this day, I've got it in my study. I've got an A1 board that says target 100 rejections. And so I wanted to turn that negative into a positive and say, actually, I want more people to say no. Bring it. Give me more no's. Because the more no's I get, I know I'm a step closer to a yes. Mm-hmm. And it's like finding that ace in your pack of cards. You don't know if it's at the top, middle, or it could be the very last card before you're about to give up on the journey. Your ace is in there somewhere. So I went through those rejections. And as I was doing it, I was really enjoying the process. I was growing as a person. I was developing. I was growing thick skin, that's for sure. And my why was becoming stronger because now all these rejections were the people that for me, I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. Because you didn't believe in me, I'm going to do it even more. You know, so I thank everyone for that, to be honest. All the struggles, I'm so grateful for.
This podcast is very kindly sponsored by the gentleman at Glownode. If you are an aspiring trader who would like to gain access to capital to further progress your trading career, take a look at Glownode. They provide you with several options when it comes to funding. Once you pass your assessment, your evaluation phase with them, you have access to capital ranging from $10,000 all the way up to $200,000 in funding. I've dropped the details down in the link below. Oh, I love that. I love that. People definitely do look at rejection in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And they see it as a step back when it's actually a step in the right direction.
It
because,
is.
you know, there's a saying, fail forwards. You know, every no that you get builds you and every yes builds the business.
Absolutely.
So I fully agree with that because when I got into sales, my first sales job was when I was 19. It was a telesales environment. And I was making about 200 cold calls a day.
Wow.
There was a pink sheet in front of us. There was no monitors or anything. A corded telephone. I was on an average salary at the time of about 15,000 annually. So the income was crap, just above the minimum allowance, basically, the basic allowance.
Yeah.
But that job did something to me.
Yeah.
It messed me up in a good way.
Yeah.
Because since that job that I've had, I've never had any fear of rejection.
Exactly.
And if anything, I was going out there deliberately seeking failure.
Yeah.
Because when I seek failure, as you mentioned, I'm closer to getting to that yes, but also it makes me tough.
Exactly.
You know, and actually there's a quote which I want to share with you, which I want to get your opinion on. I think it's actually from Donald Trump. He said that what determines whether or not someone will become a good entrepreneur is their ability to manage stress.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Oh, I 100% agree. And what you were just talking about reminded me of one of the jobs that I had, where I was one of these annoying people who stand in the middle of a shopping center and just trying to grab your attention to sign you up to something, dental care, you know, life insurance. And I always hated those people. I know it's a bad, you know, we do because we want to get on with our life and we're just like, oh God, stop annoying me.
They're going to stop me now.
But I tell you what, I've got so much respect for these people that do that because it's not an easy position to be in when you're working on only commission-based income. If you sell, you make money. Otherwise, you could be there the whole day not selling anything and you've literally walked away not having made a penny. Like that is hard. That is really tough. So yeah, that quote, I love it. It's so true. 100%.
And I also think it's true because when you're an entrepreneur, you may get a good run.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months where you're making good money.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 months where you barely make anything.
Exactly.
And it's that roller coaster of emotions.
Exactly.
It's what do you do when you're not making anything? You're looking at your direct debits that are due and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to bounce.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's when a lot of people return back to the job.
Correct.
And stay there.
Correct.
Because they're almost scarred from that experience.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
And so they never try again.
It's sad. It's so, so sad. Because the fact that you try to do it in the first place, just that's your proof that there's a desire inside you that wants to do more, that wants to do better. But because of external factors or because of your own internal fear, you've stopped your journey from progressing and gone back to the life that actually wasn't made for you. You know, and I've seen so many incredibly talented people in this industry that have failed or, you know, been successful at one stage and then failed or, you know, however it went. And they've just gone back to work in their normal jobs and thinking, okay, well, I tried, you know, it's not for me. Let me just go back to how I was paying my bills and leave it as that. But I just think you have to, like, Richard Branson was bankrupt 3 times. Like, every single successful person in the world has got a horror story of failure upon failure upon failure. So for me, it's always, you know, and we've had those points like many times, not once or twice, many times, where we're literally ground zero and we're thinking, right, what do we do? How do we go back to work in a job temporarily? Do we continue, like, you know, fighting for the success that we want in entrepreneurship? Like, how, because we have to still pay our bills, and you're having like this internal battle with yourself because you don't want to let yourself down by going back, but at the same time you don't want to be so egotistical to, you know, trying to do something that's not going to happen. So it is a tough one, but, you know, the way I see it is you've got to do what you have to do to pay your bills, but never give up on that thing that is inside you, that real desire that you're made to do something more. Like, continue looking for that thing that's going to help you to get there, however long it takes.
I love that because, I mean, you never know when it's going to take off for you. It could be 2 years from now. It could be 3 years from now. It could be in 6 months. I mean, people look at success in entrepreneurship in a very linear way.
Yeah.
It took me this long to get to this income at my job. So with my business, it's going to take me to, and they think of it in a very linear way, but it compounds.
Exactly.
And at any point, I mean, in the world of content creation, for example, you could make 100 videos, and then the 101st goes viral.
Exactly.
And your life is completely different.
That's it.
But does that mean the 100 were failures? Does that mean the 100 were a waste of time?
Exactly. Not at all. I mean, I love what Tony Robbins says. He says a lot of people overestimate what they do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in a decade.
That's powerful.
It's very powerful because, you know, we do have these like goals that, oh, I want to be here in 6 months, 1 year, you know, let's make it happen. And then if it doesn't happen, you get so let down. But should you have continued the journey, doing it for 10 years, 15 years, if you have to, like, the growth is just going to be, it's explosive.
And you touched on goal setting there in terms of people underestimating what they can do in a decade. How has goal setting evolved for you since you first started? You mentioned earlier that in the beginning you wrote down 5 things and you were like, well, that's it, that's me done. Now when you set goals, how do you set them?
That's amazing. You know, like I love the whole concept of goals. So after reading The Secret, I did my vision board. And you know, I've got my vision board at home where I could see my very early days, like all the images, like my dream home, home abroad. You know, I wrote down a check as well of like 10,000 on a check to myself. That's what I wanted to earn monthly. I don't know what industry, what business. That's just the income that I wanted as one of my first goals. And I didn't realize that it actually had come true 4 years later. So 4 years after I had wrote down that goal, 10,000 a month, it came true. And, you know, the Gucci wallet I wanted, my husband bought for me. He never saw my vision board. You know, the dream home that we actually thought, I thought I wanted for myself abroad was actually the house that I was looking at because as a place to get married. You know, it was actually home in Marbella. That's where we got married.
Oh, wow.
The honeymoon image that I had was exactly the place that we actually did our honeymoon.
That's incredible.
And this happened all years later after I had cut out these images, put it together. And now, you know, the fact that I got stuck on 5 goals, I've actually got a journal where it's my goal by the end of this year to write down 1,000 goals for myself.
That's amazing.
However small they are, it doesn't matter. 1,000 goals. Because actually it's the smaller things that gets me more excited because I think, oh, I'm doing that. I've done that. And sometimes we set our sights so high that we get disappointed ourselves because we haven't reached that level. But, you know, it's a small stepping stone. Start with the smaller steps first and work your way up. So that's how I set my goals.
That's powerful. And actually, Vinny, when he was here, he mentioned he learned that from Kevin Trudeau, the goal setting and how to set smaller goals so that it keeps you in the game excited.
Exactly.
You know, and Jim Rohn talks about the reason why it's good to set smaller goals as well, because it's a joy to tick them off at the end when you accomplish them.
Exactly.
I've done that.
Absolutely. It's self-rewarding. And you need to do that to yourself, not to put yourself under so much pressure. But like Bob Proctor used to say, there's an A-type, B-type, C-type goal. So your A-type goal is something that it's going to happen. It's very possible. B-type is more something that you really want, but it's going to take some work. But that's what you want to achieve. It might be a 12-month goal. But your C-type goal, that's the thing that scares the hell out of you. You don't know how you're going to do it, but you have a clear vision on exactly what you want. So it's really important to have these different categories of goals so that you do feel a self of achievement.
Absolutely. And do you believe that it's important to celebrate the small wins as well? Because I think one issue a lot of entrepreneurs fall into is they delay happiness to a future date. Once I've got the Lambo and the big house, then I'll give myself some leeway to kick back and relax. But the whole time they're miserable.
No, I mean, I learned so much from going to Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins. I've done 4 physical events with him, and then I've done virtual events as well over COVID. And it's just incredible because he does this process where it makes you feel gratitude for where you are now. And that's so important, because when we look at the people who don't have so much, and there are so many people out there who don't have half of what we've got, when you're not happy now and you don't have the gratitude for what you have today, like the simplest things, our kids, even from a very young age, used to read on our whiteboard, I'm so happy and grateful for the clean air, for the clean water, for the food in the fridge, for the toothpaste that we have, for the clothes we have. Like the most simplest things that we take for granted, like if you're grateful and you show that gratitude now, like you 100% can just feel so much like self-accomplishment. And that's just only going to attract more greatness to your life when you're happy with what you've got now.
I love that. I love how you've instilled that within your children, the gratitude for the smaller things.
Yeah.
It's not just the stuff that we buy that should make us feel grateful. It's also just being healthy, being able to move around. And that's something that I really admire. And gratitude is one of those things that it's something you practice, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because most people, and especially here in the UK, I feel like we're inherently very negative people in the UK.
Yeah.
Everyone's stuck up into themselves and they're like, all right, good for you, mate.
Yeah.
There's none of that. So the attitude of, oh yeah, I'm so grateful just to be alive. Maybe the Aussies have it a little bit more than here. Maybe it's the sun that makes them feel this way. They're a lot more chilled over there. But here I feel like people are definitely a lot more closed.
Definitely.
And I think people, because they're negative inherently, it repels success.
Exactly.
It repels opportunity.
Absolutely.
That's something that I realized that when I started practicing gratitude, it felt really corny in the early stages.
Yeah.
I'm happy and grateful.
Yeah.
I was writing it on a pad and I thought, man, I'm such a goofball. Why am I doing this? It's a waste of my time.
It was really weird.
I felt like a teenage girl, like Dear Diary, I was like, why am I doing this? And then after a while, I noticed I was only writing down 3 things every day that I was grateful for.
Right.
But then I realized, man, I feel different.
Yeah.
I feel different. My energy's changed.
Exactly.
And because I celebrated the small wins, things started to kick off in my entrepreneurial life, in my personal life.
Yeah.
I felt like a totally different man, completely reinvented because of practicing gratitude.
Exactly.
In the same way that you go to the gym to practice.
Yeah.
I was practicing gratitude. Whenever I caught myself thinking negative, I made sure to keep my mouth shut. Yeah. Because it's when you start speaking it, that's when it starts to grow roots and destroy you.
And The Magic is a really good book for anyone who is not really aware about how powerful the gratitude, giving gratitude is, because they do like a gratitude exercise in there. And I love that book.
The Magic, yeah.
The Magic. It's like the second part to The Secret.
Nice.
The Magic. Incredible.
I don't think I've read that book as well.
It's amazing.
Make sure you watch it, guys. I'm going to make a note of that after. Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. And you mentioned The Magic, obviously, and The Secret. What other books, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad as well? This is a common question I get all the time as well. Whether it's entrepreneurial or books that have impacted you in other areas of your life. Is there another couple of books or 3 books that you feel have really impacted you?
I think Zig Ziglar, See You at the Top, is an amazing one. Think and Grow Rich, I've got to say that it took me a while to understand that. And the only reason I really like force myself to continue reading it and trying to get it is because that's Bob Proctor's Bible, you know, and I love Bob Proctor. So that's something I got into later on. But it took me a while to have to develop to that stage where I can start absorbing that information. I think that's really important to understand as well. Like, you can't just, when you're new into this whole like self-programming, personal development, you can't just jump on any book. You have to really start from something a bit of an easy read. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. Even with audios, like I couldn't initially listen to like the hardcore, strong audios. You know, I had to start off with like Earl Nightingale, you know, The Stranger's Secret, some of Bob Proctor's, you know, audios as well. Of course, Tony Robbins got amazing audios, like Magic of Believing, Cloud Bristol, like they're quite easy to listen to. And then you can go into the harder stuff like Kevin Trudeau. Because he's very easy to listen to, but again, it takes a different level of just thinking.
You've got to warm up for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I agree with that fully. I agree with that. Because I think, especially when I started listening to those books at 2021, I mean, it felt like listening to, it was very heavy in terms of the words that was in it, in terms of the concepts. So what the hell does that concept mean? No idea what that means. I think you need to also be in the game physically to then really comprehend what the book's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Because then you could be like, oh yeah, when I did that before. And it's like everything starts to connect.
Exactly.
So just being a reader without implementation can often feel overwhelming.
Exactly.
But when you read and do, and then you later on you realize, oh yeah, that makes sense now.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need something to channel it into. You know, there's so many people that do go to all these kind of events, you know, like the self-development events, the mastery events, the mindset events. But then, you know, you don't quite have the thing that you're going to now pour all this energy and knowledge into. And that's really important to kind of look for as well in your journey. Because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but then what do you do with it? It's just in your mind. And that's not going to help you. You know, you need to now put it into action and put it into something that's going to develop that result that you wanted in the first place.
That's so true. That's so true. Because so many people get stuck in the paralysis by analysis stage. And they have all of these books. Like there was a point where I stopped buying books because I had like 30 in my room. And I realized I haven't even read 3 of them.
And
I was like, man, what am I doing here? So let me just actually start reading the books. And I did what Halton Buggs actually recommended once. I was listening to an audio of his where he said that he doesn't read a book front to back. He'll open the book, go through a chapter, highlight a few things, close it, go out there, implement what that chapter taught, and then come back and maybe pick up another book, open it, read one of the chapters, close it, because then that makes you prioritize action taking over just theory.
Exactly.
And eventually the levels will start depleting and you'll realize, oh, I've read all of those books, but in a gradual stage as opposed to, oh, I've read 3 books this week, but what have you retained?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we can just keep, you know, you could keep reading, but nothing is going in. Like it's pointless. So the point that you touched on, you know, writing notes, underlining, highlighting, that's so important because then it's like you're studying something. Like it's not just reading, you're studying the material. And that's really important, whether it's on a book or in an audio. Like when I'm listening to an audio, I listen to the same audio for at least 6 months. You know, right now I'm listening to Brian Tracy, The Secrets of Self-Made Billionaires. And, you know, it blows me away every time I listen to it because I'm picking up something different, even though I've heard it many times. Maybe at the stage of where I am in my life or something else. Or, you know, your focus sometimes goes for a few seconds and then, you know, you hear something else. So it's really important to study the material, not just do it for the sake of doing it.
I'm so glad you touched on that because sometimes you're also in a different chapter of your life.
Exactly.
And a different part of the book hits you.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why, going over the same book several times. And I remember when Bob Proctor, I never got the chance to meet him, unfortunately, but I remember when I was watching his videos, he'd always hold Think and Grow Rich. Like the original copy that he had. He's like, this book. You know, and I was like, wow, how can a man be so passionate about and you could just see it, like he was holding this book and he was like, and you're like, man, I must pick up this book and really see what the fuss is about.
It's obsessiveness, really. It was borderline, it was obsessiveness, and you have to be, you know, to get the results that he's got, you've got to be obsessed with something.
Absolutely. And what I love about Bob Proctor is when he talks about or when he talked about the paradigms and frequencies, like all of that stuff was new to me.
Yeah.
I just thought early
It's
on,
deep. It's
yeah,
deep.
it's like, and in fact, I'd love if you can touch on the whole frequency thing that he spoke about, getting on the same frequency as your goals, because that was a concept that blew my mind when I first read about it.
It is. And he's such a deep person, when he talks about the conscious and the subconscious mind, like that in itself took me a long time to kind of understand. But like radio frequency, how we tune into something and it tries to pick up a frequency, like exactly what our brains do. So when we're tuning into, success and positivity and wealth and, health and all these great stuff, that's exactly the frequency that we're sending out to the universe. And it's unexplainable how it happens, but it's all very scientific, that you are going to attract the things that you are thinking about most of the time. And, he says the law of attraction is a higher law than the law of gravity. And that, just makes you think, well, gravity is obvious. We know what comes up must come down. But then no one really understands because it's just not physically easy to understand. I remember in one of his audios, he says, one of his mentors, can't remember the name now, but one of his mentors said, money, like it doesn't talk to you, but you can talk to it. And if you start hollering at it, it will start coming to you. And then in the early days, he thought to himself like, God, I should have been talking to money all my life. I should have been hollering at it ages ago. So, it doesn't talk, but it's got ears and it can hear what you're saying.
Wow.
And I was like, that's strong.
That is very powerful when you look at it that way. And I think just from having conversations with people that are afraid of money, you understand why they keep repelling it.
Yeah.
As well, because whatever you fear, you repel.
Absolutely.
And if I'm afraid of making more money, I'm never going to make it.
Absolutely.
But when you change the conversation and you create a nice, hospitable environment for money to come.
Yeah.
And, as you mentioned, you start hollering at the money. It's everything changes. Everything changes. But I'm also fascinated by how you and Vinay work so well together, so seamlessly together as well, because I think it's a hot take that some people say don't mix business with relationships and things like that. But seeing you both work so well together, complement each other, how have you managed to pull it off, first of all? How have you been able to work so well together over the years and thrive in business?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's a bonus that I met him in the industry. So that helped.
Yeah.
Actually, at a convention in Malaysia, believe it or not, other side of the world, with 15,000 people in an arena. And we had just connected. We just connected really, really well. But there was also a phase where he left the industry. I don't know if he shared this story.
I don't believe he did, no.
Oh, well,
this is an exclusive.
I'm going to share it. He actually left the industry. And it was just when we got married, he decided to leave the industry, which I was actually quite new in. And I was very excited and I was finding my feet and I was very passionate about it. And he was like, do you know what? This doesn't work. Like, I'm giving you 6 months. And he actually gave me an ultimatum. He said, I'm giving you 6 months to make it work. If it doesn't work, then you go back to doing your wedding planning, go back to your job, or we find something else. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on a ticking time bomb, because I really want to make this work. And I thought to myself, right, I know about the law of attraction, and I was so passionate about it because I believe me writing down things that I want in my life is what attracted him to my life, 100%. The man that I wanted, what he looked like and how he would act and everything, like that is Vinay. So I thought, if I could do that with him, I've got to do that with like an opportunity. And I, again, just kept on writing things down. So just by chance, when I got to my 6th month of my ultimatum, I had then met my former mentor, Abdullah Sandhu. Came into my life completely randomly. And he completely changed everything, in terms of results, mindset. Like, he was someone that really, really believed in me, believed in us. And I would say him alone was the thing that got Vinay back into the industry, because Vinay saw him and said, you know what, you're sitting here, you're so humble. You're like a multiple 6-figure earner. You don't have any ego. Like, you're paying for 30 people for their dinner without even flinching or thinking twice. Like, I want to be you. And again, it's all law of attraction. And once Vinay had kind of fully come back into the industry, he found his passion again. For us right now, it's all about staying focused on our goals. Like, what is it that we want? What we're trying to achieve? And we write down every day. And this is more specifically since we both listened to this audio by Brian Tracy I was talking about, Secrets of the Self-Made Billionaires. Mm-hmm. So every day we're writing down our goals, what we want. And we actually exchange with each other. I'm not even going to expose that part of it because his goals are very different to mine. Yeah. But it's nice to know what each other is looking for, because then that's where we can be each other's support as well. Mm-hmm. He might have his bad day, but then I will know when he's having his bad day and I'm going to be there to lift him. I'll be having a bad day. He will be there to lift me. But don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. Like, it's never perfect. You just compromise, you understand each other's language, and you just make it work, because you have such a big end goal that without each other, you're just not going to be at the same level. Like, you're stronger together as a partnership than if you were alone.
That's true.
And so we want it so bad for not even for ourselves, for our families. For
you
the
both
people
have a
around
common
us.
Goal that you're working towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you mentioned the fact that you both communicate to each other on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Is that something that really helps for the both of you navigate your way through?
It does. And with what he does and what we do sometimes, believe it or not, we live in the same house, but there could be days that we don't see each other. Like, we're so busy. But then this also comes part of the sacrifice that is required for you to get to your destination, or, go further where you want to go. Because it's not every day going to be like, just because we work together, we've got business together, like we're with each other all the time. It's not the case. He's still doing his stuff. I'm doing my stuff, as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter-in-law, like all the other hats that I have to put on as well. So,
how do you manage it being a mother as well? Because that's the hardest job in the world.
It is.
And obviously you have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And you're a business owner.
Yeah.
You've got so much going on, and you need your own time as well, your own solo time.
Absolutely.
How do you manage to
I'm so
yourself?
Thankful that I'm a wedding planner by profession.
That definitely helps by the sounds of it, yeah.
Because I'm a super organized person, like in every sense, every little detail, like that's just me, like borderline obsessive. And Vinay used to always say, when he first met me, got married to me, like, we used to go on holidays together, and I would be there like way before the time that we need to be there. And he's always like, God, why, you're so uptight. Like, why can't you just relax sometimes? Like, you don't have to always be somewhere like on time. Like, you can just go with the flow. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a leaf out of your book, and I'm going to follow what you say. And I kid you not, we missed a few flights of where we were supposed to go. And I was like, right, I'm going to go back to doing it my way. Yeah. But he does now appreciate the value of time. Organization, like planning is so crucial, because I can never have a day where I feel like I've not been productive. Like, that will drive me crazy. And being busy and being productive is completely 2 different things, because we can be busy every day. The day has gone, the week has gone, the month has gone, the year has gone. And then you're thinking, what have I actually done in my life? Like, I don't want to get to that. I've had many of those years, and I'm done with those years. I don't want to be there anymore. So I'm like, every day I got a planner. Every Sunday for me, so I'll be doing it after this. Every Sunday night for me is my sit down with my diary. I need to fill up as much as I can in there. Where am I supporting people? What do I need to do? Okay, my son's got taekwondo classes. Okay, my daughter's going ballet classes on this day. Okay, my mother-in-law is away this day. This day, I've got to do the cooking on this day. I've got to do, like, I'm super, I know exactly A to Z what's going on in my life every day. And it sounds like people think, okay, you're crazy. You're over the top. But I think it's necessary, especially when you're juggling so many things.
Absolutely, because it's so easy if you don't do that to just waste time, bleed time. Honestly, it's I had similar revelations as well. In fact, I was on a coaching call earlier with this individual that I was helping, and I said a similar thing to what you just said right now, in terms of if you don't sit down and have that one-to-one with yourself.
Exactly.
Because in a corporate job, especially if you work in sales, they monitor your performance.
Absolutely.
And they see, is he on track to meet his goals? And, and they have regular one-to-ones with you. But you don't have one-to-ones with yourself.
Exactly.
You don't keep yourself in check.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't think about when they get into entrepreneurship. They don't think about how they now need to keep themselves accountable.
Absolutely.
Because there's no one above you now telling you, You've made no cold calls. You haven't reached out to anybody. You didn't follow up with this guy.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy to waste time if you don't do that.
Exactly.
So that is something that I think isn't talked about very often.
Yeah.
Because we live this, everyone thinks of entrepreneurship from the place of what Instagram thinks it is.
Exactly. And, you know, if you think about it in the sense that you ask yourself, like, what is it that you want to earn at the end of the month? For example, you know, whatever that figure is, like, what would it take for you to do that in your job? Like, what would it require for you to do that in your job and earn that check that you want to earn? Now think about what is it you need to do that in your entrepreneurial business. Like, it's a lot. It's longer hours than in a job, for sure. But that's the sacrifice that's required if you want this lifelong, you know, the years of freedom, or just not having to answer to anyone, or just being free in your mind and your spirit, you know, like, it's going to be years of sacrifice before you get to that end stage. We're still doing it. We're not anywhere near where we want to be. Like, we're literally just, you know, like, we're on base level. Like, okay, we've been warming up. We've been growing ourselves. We've been developing our minds. We've been, you know, going through the ups and downs. And now we know how to get over that. We understand that God will only give us what we deserve and what we can handle. So let's show the world what we can handle. Give us as much as you want. Throw your rocks, you know, dig us a hole in the ground. We're going to climb back out no matter what it takes. We're ready.
I love that. I love that. I mean, every level has another devil, as they say, right?
Exactly.
And you never arrive.
No.
You know, this whole idea that, once I become successful, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, and Earl Nightingale, and you probably heard this as well, right? He defines success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Exactly. So for me, that was also one of those lines that made me think, whoa, what does that mean? You know, because in my mind, success was $1 million in the bank, Lamborghini, all that sort of stuff. But then I thought, wow, you know, you could still be a success if you make 80 grand a year, but you wake up every single day and you live life the way you want to live it.
Exactly. Success is not monetary. Success can be, you know, you being a great mother, you being a great wife. It's what you want, what you see as that trophy, you know, but you've got to work at it every day. Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, touching on the relationship you have with Vinay as well, what advice would you give to a young couple? Maybe they've been in a relationship for a few months now, to navigate their way over the course of many years, to be strong together over the course of many years. How would you advise them in today's world, especially where it's so easy to quit on something, and just to throw it away and find something else? What would you tell them?
I think it's really important to get yourselves on the same level, on the same frequency. Because everyone has a different upbringing, a different background, you know, they've been raised in different kinds of families. And so you're never going to have the exact same personality as someone, but you can always have a very common vision or goal as someone. And so to maybe start off with doing things like going to events together, you know, reading the same books together, listening to the same audios together. I mean, whenever me and Vinay are traveling, it's rarely music. Rarely. Like, it's always audios that we both listen to together. We might pause it and discuss it and understand it. You know, writing down our goals together. What do we want? Doing a vision board together. Like, you know, if you're not doing this with your partner, you are going to start going on different levels. You know, one person might be raising themselves spiritually, the other person hasn't done any work, and so there's just going to be this kind of disconnect. The way to connect that is just syncing both your minds together spiritually before anything physical happens. It's got to be the spiritual work first together.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah, I actually agree with that, because I think the issue in modern relationships is people are inherently lazy.
Yeah.
And I speak to a lot of guys, and I coach them on relationships. And with guys, we typically make the mistake of, once we've got the woman, right, she's now secured, I can now take my foot off the gas and, you know, just relax a little bit. But that little bit of relaxation prolongs, and then you end up losing yourself. You stop going to the gym, and you just stop working on yourself. Yeah. And in life, I believe you're either getting better or getting worse. There's no middle ground. You don't stay the same. Yeah. If you stop training, you don't keep the same body you've had. Exactly. You go backwards. Yeah. So I think that's from a guy's perspective, that's the mistake we make. Yeah. And I'm sure you'd probably agree that also with women, a lot of the times they get a little bit complacent as well.
It goes both ways. From a perspective or from a guy, women have got so much power now that they had 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. They will not be afraid to walk away should the man not, do what he needs to be doing in life, spiritually, mentally, physically, like in all aspects. Because it's no longer those days where like we're sitting at home as mothers and we're relying on you to bring in the money. Now with online business, with things being mobile, with the internet, like women are making a lot of money sitting at home and not really relying on the guy. So there's a massive game change here. Like everyone needs to change their game. Likewise, reversal, women cannot take for granted that, because I've had your baby, you're going to be here. Like, no, men need to also be, kept on their feet. They need to be shown that, this is still exciting. Like we always, as humans, we always want to look for something exciting. We need something to kind of keep us going in our journeys, not just be complacent. And so, yeah, it's work on both ends for sure.
100%. I agree with that. Because ultimately comfort kills progress.
Yeah.
And in relationships, it's important to have that discourse, talk about what you aim to achieve, check in on each other, see how you're doing mentally. And that's very important because, it's in the same way that people quit entrepreneurship very quickly. People also quit relationships very quickly these days.
Absolutely.
It's not going the way I wanted to, quit next.
Yeah.
But I think people that do that don't realize that everyone's messed up.
Yeah.
Everyone that they're going to meet has some limitations.
Absolutely.
And they're never going to find perfect.
Exactly.
The grass is greener where you water it, and that's ultimately the most important thing. Because as a guy, what I preach to the gentlemen that watch the show is that you have to take 100% responsibility for where you are in life.
I love that,
And you cannot expect that once you've got the woman, she'll make you feel happy. It's your responsibility to be fulfilled. Happiness isn't even a good metric for me, in my opinion, to follow, because happiness is a visitor.
Exactly.
It comes and goes.
Absolutely.
You have seasons where you feel happy, seasons where you don't feel quite happy.
Absolutely.
And that's normal.
Yeah.
I think people nowadays feel that just because they feel a little bit sad today, that something's wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a very normal human emotion. You're not going to be upbeat 24/7.
No, yeah.
And especially as an entrepreneur, you're going to have days where you think, I wasted time.
Exactly.
Maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah.
You're going to feel down. You're going to feel like you've let people down.
Yeah.
But soon you'll get a really good month in business, and money will come in, and then you'll feel validated, and now it makes sense.
Exactly.
You'll feel happy again.
Yeah.
So those are emotions that come and go.
Yeah, I think the secret is not staying in that down emotion for so long, like being aware that when you are having those down days and you're feeling negative and you're feeling low, you've got to be so conscious of your own feeling and your emotion that you need to know what you need to do to snap out of it. Like, don't stay in that state for long, because that will drag you, and it will drag your results down. It will drag everything else down. Like, personally for me, like when I'm feeling a little bit negative, I'm feeling down, I will have a 30-second rant with Vinay or with whoever and be like, do you know what? Done. It's off my chest. Oh, I feel so much better. And I'm just like back to my normal self again. And sometimes we need that as humans. We need someone to talk to, or we need something to do to just kind of channel that negative energy, and then it's out of our system. But it's just being aware that you cannot stay in that state, because that's what's damaging long term.
Exactly. The show goes on.
Yeah.
You have to keep moving, otherwise you're going to get worse. So I fully agree with that. Once you've vented out and you've released your frustrations, back to the work. Because the goals are there.
Exactly.
And if you don't hit it, someone else will.
Absolutely.
Is how I see it as well. Because we live in a world now where there's so much opportunity and so many people, aiming for the same goal.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation I always have with myself. I tell myself, Ali, there's so many people that want this very same goal that you want.
Yeah.
How are you going to stand out?
Yeah.
And it's no good just trying. You need to make sure that you strive to be the best that you can be.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying isn't enough.
Exactly.
As we said with Bob Proctor, being obsessed.
Be obsessed, yeah. Brian Tracy actually just recently said, like, every 8 minutes there is a new self-made millionaire produced in the world.
That's incredible.
Every 8 minutes. And so if you're not one of those millionaires in this entrepreneurial journey, you're doing something wrong. Like, there has never been more opportunity than there is now.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. We live in the golden era.
Absolutely.
And now, especially with content creation. I mean, you don't have to be a full-time content creator,
No.
but if you get attention around what you're doing, you're destined to make money.
Exactly.
I mean, I watch guys to this day like Grant Cardone and Gary Vee, Patrick Bet-David, a few
Love him.
top people, and they're just creating content like crazy. Even though they're not full-time YouTubers or vloggers necessarily. That's not how they made their money. But you see their obsession with getting attention and how it supports what they're doing. You know, Patrick Bet-David with Valuetainment. That's become a whole business of its own.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's not even what got him his millions.
Exactly.
But now you see how he's taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And I saw as well recently, Vinay obviously launched the podcast as well that he has.
Yeah.
I'd love to see an episode with both of you on there together very, very soon.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get both of you on at the same
We
time.
actually haven't done it together yet, so that's still to come. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I think both of you should even start a channel together where, you know, you as a couple, you just get like Grant Cardone and his
Eleanor
wife,
Cardone,
Eleanor as
love
well.
them. They're incredible.
They work very well together as well. I think you and Vinay would absolutely crush it in an environment like that.
It will show the realism that it's not always perfect. You know, we all have our ups and downs, we have our moments, but how do we work through them? That's the key thing. What keeps us going. So yeah, it would be interesting to see.
That would be. And I think both of you have an excellent ability to communicate and connect with people. You know, because when you know, for those of you that don't know, I was sat in several events with Rupa and Vinay actually leading the conversation at the front of the room, presenting to the audience. And I remember just watching you and Vinay and thinking, wow, both of them are excellent speakers. And their ability to command an audience and get them engaged and interested. It's one thing just speaking, but to get people really leaning forward. I remember watching you and Vinay speak and people were just writing notes, you know, vigorously and just seeing how people were so connected to what you were both saying. That made me think, wow, that's such a great quality to have. And in fact, that leads me on to this question. You know, what are the 3 most transformative skills that you would say you've learned over the last few years that have impacted your life, whether personally or in business?
I think number 1, I just want to say I wasn't always that confident. And people find it hard to believe. They're like, oh, you're so natural, you're on the stage, you're not nervous. I'm like, yeah, I'm nervous. Like you know, when we're speaking in front of 8,000 to 10,000 people at a convention, it's always scary, you know. But the thing that's really helped me to, I guess, get through that phase of my life is practicing the mirror magic technique. This is what Cloud Bristol talks about in The Magic of Believing. That's really helped my own self-confidence. Because, you know, I was that person standing in front of the mirror, as he says, like literally do this. It's a physical exercise. You know, stand in front of the mirror, you know, like shoulders back, back straight, feet together. Look at yourself in the mirror like eye to eye. And tell yourself all the things that you want to become, like how you see yourself being, you know, your better version of yourself. So I used to stand there saying, you know, I'm confident when I walk into a room, like everyone looks, you know, when I'm on stage, like there's hundreds of people that I'm inspiring, there's thousands of people, you know, so all these things that I want about myself, which I never really had then, I was kind of doing again and again and again as repetition. And along the journey, you start realizing that actually all these things are now happening the way I said I want it to happen. So that practice was a very key thing for me.
And is that something you practice daily, or was it?
It's something that I did for 30 days only. And then I did it every now and then when I was just having those low moments. But I did it every day for 30 days. And I remember the first time that I did it, Vinay walked into the room. And I was like in front of my mirrored wardrobe. And I was just standing there waiting for him to leave the room. And he was looking at me like, what are you doing staring at yourself? And I was like, I need to talk to myself, but I can't do it with you there. So can you leave? And he's like, you need to talk to yourself. What are you talking about? But then, you know, he had read that or listened to the audio, and that's something that he also started to do. So things seem really weird in the beginning when you have to do stuff and you feel like so out of place. But then the feeling is also amazing at the same time, because you really start feeling this sense of like being powerful and strong emotionally, mentally, and something just comes over you and you actually start believing that you can really be this person. So it's a very strong thing.
I fully agree with that, because the alternative is you talk very negatively
Exactly.
to yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And we know how that feels. That
Yeah.
never feels great. And
No.
you end up almost attracting bad luck. Because people often say,
Yeah.
"Man, I'm so unlucky in this and this." And
Yeah.
they never question why.
Exactly.
It's because of what they're saying to themselves.
Yeah.
It changes the way you feel on the inside, and then ultimately what you do.
Yeah.
Someone many years ago that I actually followed quite closely, Ramasio Fulcher, I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
He was also very big time in network marketing, very
Okay.
successful. He said, when you feel good, you do good. And that stuck with me, because he was the kind of character that was just clapping and laughing a lot. And, you know, of course, money loves me and things like that. And his energy was so contagious in a positive way that when I started watching him, I started believing again. And I feel like if people spoke to themselves that way every day, and of course money's going to come to me. Who else is it going to come to?
Exactly.
You know, it's almost like a little bit of arrogance
Yeah.
with it, you
Yeah.
know, and you notice how you feel.
Yeah.
You feel very, very good about yourself.
Exactly.
And when you feel good, you do good ultimately.
That's the most important thing. The feeling is the most important thing.
Because people can actually feel it on you. Like if you came into an interview
Yeah.
and you mentioned that you got every job that you interviewed for, and it's probably because you were very positive and you had great posture when you walked in, and posture is not just how you sit or stand.
Exactly.
It's also how you speak as well.
Yeah, it's your attitude.
Yeah, like you assume success.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've heard of the law of assumption.
Yes.
You know, the law of assumption is also a concept that blew my mind as well. It's assuming, living in the state of the wish fulfilled, right?
Yes.
It's not just saying, oh, hopefully one day, because that creates distance.
Exactly.
It's
That creates
saying,
doubt.
I live that right now.
Exactly.
So, with the interview, for example, when you go in, if
Yeah.
you go in and you're looking down and you're not looking at the interviewer in the eyes, and you're speaking quietly and you're fidgeting with your hands,
Says a lot.
it says a lot. It says a lot, and someone's going to sit there and think, okay, this person doesn't believe in themselves. But if you walk in, great posture, firm handshake,
Exactly.
great tonality,
Exactly.
immediately that makes the interviewer think, whoa, there's something different about this person.
Absolutely, for sure.
So
Yeah.
100% energy is contagious.
Yeah.
It's sticky, whether it's negative or positive. That's why it's so important to stay away from people
Yeah.
that are negative. How is your current social life in terms of the people that you spend time with? Are you only around people that have a similar mindset to you, or do you still keep people around that maybe...
Yeah, do you know, it was very difficult going through that process, because I did feel at one point that my closest friends were not supportive of what I was doing. They didn't believe in the industry, and it's okay if you don't believe in the industry, but the fact that they had spoken badly about, and to other people that I also knew, don't go near Rupa, she's doing a scam, she's doing this pyramid, like, you got to block her. And, and that's the thing that I found really, really difficult to deal with, because I thought, okay, hang on, these are the people I've grown up with and I've known them all my life. But the thing is, I never kind of held on to that as any kind of hatred or anything negative. I just thought, you know what, they're in a different process and I'm in a different process. And so we did grow apart. There was a period of time that we didn't really hang out much, and I was making new friends, and my friends were my business partners. Those are the people that you want to spend time with, and it's because you're on the same kind of frequency level, and you want to spend time with the people that you're constantly learning from. Like, if you're always the biggest fish in your pond, then you're doing something wrong. You need to be around the people who are also bigger than you, not to feel like you're the greatest person there, because then you'll never keep on learning from others. And so I did change my circle. And then I got to a phase where, they, I guess, were seeing my growth, and other people were seeing that, hang on, she hasn't given up on this journey that she's been on for so long. Like, it's not something that she just tried and failed and thought, well, forget it, they were right, it's not for me. Like, I continued. And I think people seeing me being consistent may have given them a little bit more respect towards what I was trying to do. And so, like, I've got great relationships now, like what was difficult to manage and take in the beginning, we've all kind of come to this very mutual understanding that, yes, my life is very different. I'm very busy. I'm out there. I have to be on social media, but I'm still here. I still love you. Like, I've still got your back no matter what happens because of what we've been through. So I don't have to physically be present all the time. Like, I can talk to some friends and pick up the phone after 1 or 2 years, and that happens, and we meet up after so long, but it's like nothing ever changed. And those are the relationships that I really, really value. Not the people that are going to judge you that you're busy and you've got other priorities, but the ones that really understand what you're trying to do, and know that you're still there for them.
I love that. I love that. And would you agree that strangers usually have more support for you than people that you grew up with?
Yeah, that's very common. And I don't.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, you know, it's tough to say, but it may be. I think competition is a big part of it. They may somewhat feel a little bit threatened, or feel like, oh, we grew up in the same way and we have similar families, and you know, why have you got this and I've got that? Although they will never portray it like that purposely, because no one ever wants to feel jealous. No one ever wants to feel resentful, you know, but you can sometimes get it from certain conversations or body language. But I think, you know, everyone has to grow in their own time. And I never blamed anyone who, you know, felt bad that I have done something or had been somewhere, or, you know, seen certain people or whatever. I always thought that, you know what, I'm on a different path. You're on a different path. But I always respected everything that my friends do. You know, even someone who's working in a job, as much as we're talking about entrepreneurship and stuff, like, I'm so grateful that people have jobs, like that you have a job, you know, you're able to feed your family, you're able to pay your bills. Like, so many people are sitting there jobless and they're struggling and they're going into financial depression. And, you know, all this like, what's it called? Mental health. You know, like mental health has played such a massive part to society, especially since COVID. I never knew mental health existed until COVID. So I really think that today, like, everyone has to go through their own journey, and we just have to accept, you know, not only where we are, but also like where we want to be. Like I always say, look at yourself where you are now, accept that where you are now is not where you are for life. So have a clear vision where you want to be, and then just carry on going towards that.
I love that. I love that. You're not permanently planted in this one position. You know, Jim Rohn used to say, you're not a tree, you can move.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people feel like they're doomed to be in the same spot.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they've seen family members that have been in the same spot for 20 years.
Exactly, yeah.
And so they feel like it's not possible. And that's why when you start to make these moves, people look at you funny.
Yeah.
Well, this is not us. We're not these kind of people.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes it comes from limiting beliefs. And this is why I have sympathy for people that will question what I do, who maybe haven't gone out there and tried for themselves as well. I have sympathy for them because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And especially my parents, who, you know, my dad went down the educational route, did a bachelor's, master's, PhD.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to university. I went down this entrepreneurial path, failed miserably, got myself into stupid amounts of debt early on, and then came back. And so I have sympathy when he questions my moves because it's unfamiliar for him. You know, what are you trying to accomplish
exactly,
here? You know, content creation, all this stuff for a lot of people is a hobby. It's not serious until it becomes serious.
A profession,
Exactly. And this is why I like what you mentioned about when you became consistent over a sustained period of time.
Yeah.
Then people started thinking, okay, right. It's not a hobby for her. It's not this little thing on the side.
Exactly.
It's actually what she's doing.
Yeah.
And especially when you start stacking those wins, then you become undeniable.
Exactly.
Then at that point, they see you on stage in front of thousands and flying out here, flying out there.
Yeah.
Then they have no choice but to shut up and just, you know, applaud you, essentially. And this is why it's so important not to quit, because you don't want to give them the victory.
Absolutely. And you know, the funny thing is now I don't, like, people, if anyone asks me, like, you know, do you find that people are like jealous or they resent where you are? And the thing is, I don't see any of that now. Like, I don't see any kind of jealousy. I don't see any kind of, you know, animosity. I don't see anything towards me. Like, I just see love. I see love, I see respect, I see gratitude. And maybe it's because I was looking for those things earlier on in my journey.
You were paranoid about
my own ego.
Where's it coming from?
Yeah, you know, my own ego maybe saying, well, you know, I think I'm better than them and I'm more developed than them mentally or whatever. Like my own ego talking, thinking that, oh, all these people are jealous. But I just don't see that at all now. Like, there's a lot of peace in my life. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, having sympathy for these people as well, especially as a content creator, I think it's something you have to accept, that people will say some nasty things from time to time.
Of course,
but it's
naturally
they're just venting their frustrations out.
Doesn't affect you at all.
Doesn't affect you. They don't know
Not
you
at all.
You know,
No.
no one can really hate you if they don't know you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why a comment, someone saying a bunch of stuff, that shouldn't get to you because they don't know who you are on a close level.
Yeah.
And they're mad at themselves more than anything because they didn't go out there and pursue a goal that they had at one point.
Yeah.
And so seeing you go out there and pursue your goals is a reminder of the things they didn't do.
Yeah. I mean, even all these fake accounts that are coming up now, right? On Instagram and fake profiles. And God, me and Vinay, we have like probably one every week being created. And it's tiring because you're constantly having to repost and say, fake account, it's not me, don't reply, block these people. But then, like, you know, it's not to the point where, like, I kind of feel sorry for these people. It's just like...
the levels you will go to.
Yeah, like, you know, how much time must you be spending trying to live my life? You know, putting all my pictures on your profile and trying to contact all my contacts. And, like, yeah, I feel really bad for these people. And, yeah, I believe in karma. What comes around goes around. And what you're trying to gain unethically from these innocent people, it's going to shoot you big time in the foot.
Yeah, absolutely, because good always prevails. And I think a lot of these people, if they put the same effort into pretending to be you that they put into themselves,
exactly,
where could they be?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like the amount of hate some people have festering inside them, that's a lot of energy that you're just wasting.
I know.
You know,
it's insane.
If you actually put that towards something that you want to achieve, all of that hatred could actually get you to a very big point in your life.
100%.
You know, so that's, I fully agree with that. And, you know, just to wrap up, Rupa, I'd love if you can offer words of wisdom when it comes to finishing this year off strong, because we're already in April. You know, I don't know how the last 4 months have gone by so quick. It's insane, right?
So quick.
So to you know, there's a lot of people watching this right now that might have not had a good start to the year. They're now thinking, whoa, it's April and I haven't done anywhere near as much as I need to. What would you tell them to begin with to finish off the year strong?
I would say, number one, write down your gratitude every day. Like every day, have a gratitude journal. And it's never too late. It doesn't matter, we're nearly 4 months into the year. Like, it's never too late to start being grateful every day for what you have. That's number one. That's the one thing that I start off with. Number two is you have to be clear on your goals. You know, write down what do you want for the next 30 days, for the next 3 months, and for the next 6 months. And not thinking about what you've had in your past or what you've had up until now. Because a lot of the time when we're thinking about what we want, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to ask for this because last year I only was able to achieve that. Like you said, compounding, right? Like, things can change so quickly. So completely with an open mind, write down exactly what you want. And I think the third thing that I would say is that you need to plug into someone or something. Like, you need to have a positive, you know, like a positive energy around you. You need to be around someone who you can see as a mentor or as a coach, even if you can't physically see them, because there's so many inspirational people online. You know, there could be your virtual mentors, your virtual, you know, coaches. So definitely plugging into something daily or someone that you feel like you're getting guidance from. That's going to keep you going. I think that those three things, if you do that and you're doing that every day, it could really help.
That's powerful. And what I love about that is it's very practical as well.
Yeah. It's
not just, believe that you can.
Yeah.
You've told people right there to get crystal clear, to write down those goals, to plug in, to find someone. That's fantastic advice. Thank you, Rupa, so much for coming down today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It's been a very valuable podcast.
Good.
I always
hope
like, it absolutely is. And, you know, I want the audience to comment and let us know what they really appreciated from today's podcast. I always learn from every episode that I record. You know, Vinay went through some exciting concepts that opened my mind, and so did you today as well. So thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
At some point, maybe we'll run it back again with maybe you and Vinay together as well. I'll
Let's
need to
see.
get another armchair at some point. But thank you so much for coming down. And
Thank you.
ladies and gents, make sure that you like and comment. Let us know what you think down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. See you in the next episode.